Paradise is sometimes called the Father's house, since it is his eternal residence, and these 7 zones are often designated the Father's paradise mansions. The inner or first zone is occupied by Paradise citizens and the natives of Avona who may chance to be dwelling on Paradise. The next or second zone is the residential area of the natives of the 7 superuniverses of time and space. This second zone is in part subdivided into 7 immense divisions, the Paradise home of the spirit beings and ascendant creatures who hail from the universes of evolutionary progression. Each of these sectors is exclusively dedicated to the welfare and advancement of the personalities of a single superuniverse, but these facilities are almost infinitely beyond the requirements of the present 7 superuniverses. Each of the 7 sectors of Paradise is subdivided into residential units suitable for the lodgment headquarters of 1 billion glorified individual working groups. 1,000 of these units constitute a division. 100,000 divisions equal 1 congregation. 10 million congregations constitute an assembly. 1 billion assemblies make 1 grand unit. And this ascending series continues through the 2nd grand unit, the 3rd, and so on to the 7th grand unit. And 7 of the grand units make up the master units, and 7 of the master units constitute a superior unit. And thus by 7s the ascending series expands through the superior, super-superior, celestial, super-celestial, to the supreme units. But even this does not utilize all the space available. This staggering number of residential designations on Paradise, a number beyond your concept, occupies considerably less than 1% of the assigned area of the Holy Land. There is still plenty of room for those who are on their way inward, even for those who shall not start the Paradise climb until the times of the eternal future. 4. Peripheral Paradise. The central aisle ends abruptly at the periphery, but its size is so enormous that this terminal angle is relatively indiscernible within any circumscribed area. The peripheral surface of Paradise is occupied in part by the landing and dispatching fields for various groups of spirit personalities. Since the non-pervaded space zones nearly impinge upon the periphery, all personality transports destined to Paradise land in these regions. Neither upper nor nether Paradise is approachable by transport supernifim or other types of space traversers. The 7 master spirits have their personal seats of power and authority on the 7 spheres of the spirit, which circle about Paradise in the space between the shining orbs of the sun and the inner circuit of the Havona worlds. But they maintain force-focal headquarters on the Paradise periphery. Here the slowly circulating presences of the 7 supreme power directors indicate the location of the 7 flash stations for certain Paradise energies going forth to the 7 superuniverses. Here on peripheral Paradise are the enormous historic and prophetic exhibit areas assigned to the Creator Sons, dedicated to the local universes of time and space. There are just 7 trillion of these historic reservations now set up or in reserve, but these arrangements altogether occupy only about 4% of that portion of the peripheral area thus assigned. We infer that these vast reserves belong to creations sometimes to be situated beyond the borders of the present known and inhabited 7 superuniverses. That portion of Paradise which has been designated for the use of the existing universes is occupied only from 1 to 4%, while the area assigned to these activities is at least 1 million times that actually required for such purposes. Paradise is large enough to accommodate the activities of an almost infinite creation. But a further attempt to visualize to you the glories of Paradise would be futile. You must wait and ascend while you wait, for truly, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither has it entered into the mind of mortal man, the things which the Universal Father has prepared for those who survive the life in the flesh on the worlds of time and space. 5. Nether Paradise. Concerning Nether Paradise, we know only that which is revealed. Personalities do not sojourn there. It has nothing whatever to do with the affairs of spirit intelligences, nor does the Deity Absolute there function. We are informed that all physical energy and cosmic force circuits have their origin on Nether Paradise, and that it is constituted as follows. 1. Directly underneath the location of the Trinity, in the central portion of Nether Paradise, is the unknown and unrevealed Zone of Infinity. 2. This zone is immediately surrounded by an unnamed area. 3. Occupying the outer margins of the undersurface is a region having mainly to do with space potency and force energy. The activities of this vast elliptical force center are not identifiable with the known functions of any triunity, but the primordial force charge of space appears to be focalized in this area. This center consists of 3 concentric elliptical zones. The innermost is the focal point of the force energy activities of Paradise itself. The outermost may possibly be identified with the functions of the unqualified absolute, but we are not certain concerning the space functions of the mid-zone. The inner zone of this force center seems to act as a gigantic heart whose pulsations direct currents to the outermost borders of physical space. It directs and modifies force energies, but hardly drives them. The reality pressure presence of this primal force is definitely greater at the north end of the Paradise Center than in the southern regions. This is a uniformly registered difference. The mother force of space seems to flow in at the south and out at the north through the operation of some unknown circulatory system which is concerned with the diffusion of this basic form of force energy. From time to time, there are also noted differences in the east-west pressures. The forces emanating from this zone are not responsive to observable physical gravity, but are always obedient to Paradise gravity. The mid-zone of the force center immediately surrounds this area. This mid-zone appears to be static, except that it expands and contracts through 3 cycles of activity. The least of these pulsations is in an east-west direction, the next in a north-south direction, while the greatest fluctuation is in every direction, a generalized expansion and contraction. The function of this mid-area has never been really identified, but it must have something to do with the reciprocal adjustment between the inner and the outer zones of the force center. It is believed by many that the mid-zone is the control mechanism of the mid-space or quiet zones which separate the successive space levels of the master universe, but no evidence or revelation confirms this. This inference is derived from the knowledge that this mid-area is in some manner related to the functioning of the non-pervaded space mechanism of the master universe. The outer zone is the largest and most active of the 3 concentric and elliptical belts of unidentified space potential. This area is the site of unimagined activities, the central circuit point of emanations which proceed spaceward in every direction to the outermost borders of the 7 superuniverses, and on beyond to overspread the enormous and incomprehensible domains of all outer space. This space presence is entirely impersonal, notwithstanding that in some undisclosed manner it seems to be indirectly responsive to the will and mandates of the infinite deities when acting as the Trinity. This is believed to be the central focalization, the Paradise Center, of the space presence of the unqualified Absolute. All forms of force and all phases of energy seem to be encircuited. They circulate throughout the universes and return by definite routes. But with the emanations of the activated zone of the unqualified Absolute, there appears to be either an outgoing or an incoming, never both simultaneously. This outer zone pulsates in age-long cycles of gigantic proportions. For a little more than 1 billion Urantia years, the space force of this center is outgoing. Then for a similar length of time it will be incoming. And the space force manifestations of this center are universal. They extend throughout all pervadable space. All physical force, energy, and matter are one. All force energy originally proceeded from Nether Paradise and will eventually return there too, following the completion of its space circuit. But the energies and material organizations of the universe of universes did not all come from Nether Paradise in their present phenomenal states. Space is the womb of several forms of matter and prematter. Though the outer zone of the Paradise Force Center is the source of space energies, space does not originate there. Space is not a force, energy, or power. Nor do the pulsations of this zone account for the respiration of space, but the incoming and outgoing phases of this zone are synchronized with the 2 billion-year expansion-contraction cycles of space. 6. Space respiration. We do not know the actual mechanism of space respiration. We merely observe